Time will come, time will go. Time shall reap that time has sown. Time will linger, time outlasts. Embedded in the sun-kissed sand, I lay my bare and blistered hand to find a hidden hollow shell, and to mine eyes it laid a spell. Inside I found the ocean's roar, which led me to this golden shore, where gentle waves caress my feet, the sunset where all lovers meet. Footsteps here are washed away, and horizon brings another day.
Sidmouth goes back in time, certainly at least 1,000 years. It was a tiny fishing village called Sidmouth. This probably means wide mouth. I'm Nigel Hyman, and I've lived in Sidmouth for about 7 years, and for about 3 years have helped in the museum. One thing that I particularly enjoy doing are the town walks, which happen throughout the season twice a week. It remained a small fishing village right up to the end of the 18th century. Between the end of the 18th century and about 1820 or 1830, it evolved into an elegant and prosperous Regency resort.
Trees bare to the winter's touch, by winter's breath laid bare, leaves whisper of winter's heart they share. Upon the floor a red, copper glow, in waning sun, cold winters hold. Whisper leaves, the story told, of winter's heart laid bare.
So the Duke and Duchess of Kent and the Princess Victoria arrived here very quietly on December the 24th, 1819. It didn't take very long before it kind of got round to the local townspeople that there were some special people staying at Walbrook Cottage, as it was called then. My name's Hilary Caldwell, and I was brought up here at the Royal Glen Hotel, Sidmouth. We're two sisters actually that run the hotel now, and we have done for about 10-15 years now. But we were born here. This was our home when we were little.
At the time of the Duke and the Duchess of Kent's stay, there would possibly have been 15 rooms. They occupied rooms on the first and second floor. Room 15 was for the joining nursery, where Her Most Gracious Majesty, Queen Victoria, stayed during 1819 to 1820.
It was snowing and the weather was terrible. When they did arrive, they did find that the house was very cold and that the heating was very poor. However, they did appear to settle in, and for the first few days things were satisfactory.
The drawing room here would have been very much as it is now. They would have used all the rooms on the first and second floor, but you would have gone from room to room. There wouldn't have been corridors then.
Unfortunately, about 3 days after arriving, a boy was attempting to shoot birds behind the house.
This window has a coloured pane of glass because there's a story that a young boy was out shooting birds and a pellet came through this window and narrowly missed the Princess Victoria. Some people scoff at the story, but you can find it in history books.
Fortunately, she was uninjured. If she had been injured or killed, then the whole course of British history would have changed, as there would, of course, have been no Victorian age.
Duke of Kent really liked going out for walks. He would take Princess Victoria along the seafront, and he was very proud of her and would stop to talk to people.
8 days after arriving in Sidmouth, Edward developed a cold, and 2 or 3 days after that, the cold appeared to be getting worse, and it was clear that he had developed a chest infection. Edward was a strong and previously healthy man, but the treatment that he was given was really horrendous. He was treated with leeches, with blisters, and with blood being taken directly out of one of his arms. It is hardly surprising, therefore, that he died on January the 23rd, almost 2 weeks after the start of his chest infection. Two weeks after Edward had died, preparations were finally made for the cortege to move away from the house and to travel through Sidmouth, and several thousand people were said to be present to watch the funeral procession set off.
The season of spring, blooming, blossoming, of nature of all kinds, let roots unbind. The season of spring, a new awakening, busy humanity on earth, as if its life has a new birth.
Keith Owen was a Devon-born boy. He went to school in Devon at a place called Totnes in South Devon. But he went into the RAF for national service and made his career and saw service overseas, and rose to the rank of a squadron leader. So he was very effective in lots of things that he did. He liked coming back to Sidmouth. He liked walking on the cliffs. He said to me on one occasion, when I come back to Sidmouth, it's like coming back to England as it used to be. He rang me up one morning and said, I'd like to leave some money to the Vale Association. And I thought, well, that's very nice. People do say this sort of thing from time to time. And I grabbed my treasurer and said, I think you'd better come along as well. Could be £1,000 or something like that. And got down there and he started talking. And he said, I've got 8 weeks to live, or not less than that now. But he said, I want to leave my pension pot to the benefit of Sidmouth. And he said, I want to leave it to you, the Vale Association, because you don't employ anybody. You are all volunteers. And I said, well, that's quite true. We are voluntary in all the things that we do. And he said, well, it's going to be over £1 million, which I gulped. I thought, gosh, that's a bit different from what I was expecting. How amazing that he should want to leave this to the town and leave it to us. He listed some of the things he hoped we would do with his money, one of which was to create a valley of 1,000,000 bulbs. And I thought this was quite an interesting idea. I thought it's going to be very, very difficult to do that. That's what he wanted to do, and we remember that, and he died. His life was extended a little bit, but he died later in 2007, in December 2007.
Spring, a season that brings new hope and life for all. A future for Sidmouth and its community.
Yeah,
What else can we get out? We can do that.
When these bulbs first appeared on the cliffs here after this year in the springtime, it was the talk of the town. It was quite extraordinary, and people really felt a change had been made. And I think Keith Owen would have been rather pleased with that he had contributed to public benefit here, and that people were saying how much they appreciated it.
Fortfield Terrace. Peter Fung, a resident of the terrace, was astonished to find countless history in his own home.
It's a great place to live. It's a really good community here, and it being a historic place, we have a feeling of being part of history, and in a sense we feel as if we're looking after the place for generations yet to come. When the terrace was built, there weren't that many large houses around, so it was really the first of many. I think the most fascinating thing is that there is such a complete record of the terrace, certainly since 1849, when the newspapers started being published, local newspapers. It's just amazing that there's such a complete record of who might have lived in this house, say 150, 200 years ago, which I think makes it really a fascinating place to be.
Summer seasons bring colours to the face of the earth, as season's birds sing. Summer season is warmest of all the seasons, weavering dreams of bliss.
Elizabeth Barrett was probably the most famous female Victorian poet. She was very small and slight and had a rather high voice and a very dark complexion. The Barrett stayed for 12 months at 8 Fortfield Terrace, which in many ways was satisfactory, but it was very crowded because there were so many brothers and sisters. It was a very large family consisting of the father and 11 children, of which 8 were boys and 3 were girls, and the eldest was Elizabeth, who was then in her middle 20s and an aspiring poet.
How when I sang of country walks, enshrining kindly speeches, I saw you in our Sidmouth talks, beneath the elms and beeches.
She was in poor health when she arrived, with a persistent cough and with quite a lot of pain, and she found that quite soon after coming here she managed to come off the painkillers and her cough improved and her sleep pattern improved. Mr. Barrett, that is the father, had made his fortune out of slavery in the West Indies, and so, because of the climate and the fact that Elizabeth was in rather frail health, he hoped that she would benefit from being by the sea. She described being lulled to sleep by the reverberant, rolling, solemn sound of the waves. And this was stated simply in a letter that she was writing to a friend, so even when she was writing a letter, she wrote rather poetically. The Barretts stayed in all for about 3 years before moving away, and she wrote some memorable poems whilst she was here. She wrote many letters, and in that August and September and October she enjoyed going in sailing boats, fishing in the Sid, and riding a donkey on the beach.
It's autumn again. Leaves whisper the sound of our past. In lost they pay a descent. To the ground we fall. It's autumn again. Our song is sung by the wind, echoes of loss and grief. Through chilled air we wade.
I love that sort of feeling of leaves under your feet, scuffing the leaves under your feet and walking on the cliffs. We had a lovely walk on the cliffs, I remember one day. There's something about autumn. I just don't know how to describe it, but I think it's my favourite season. I think we've been here 3.5 years. Mary Gate House, who had this as a holiday flat, had a vision, and she dreamt that she should sell her flat to us. Well, it was a real answer to prayer because we were desperate by that time. And so, of course, we immediately took up all the things that were necessary for the business side of things. And here we were. Well, of course, the view to begin with is lovely. And each day you look out of the window and you see the seas in a different mood. And across the grass. And then when they're playing cricket, it's such a typical English scene, you know, the white cricketers on the blue sea and the green grass. A lot of things have happened. We just had a very carefree childhood, really. Deciding to be a nurse, guys, and nursing during the war. Very vivid memories of the Second World War. And then getting married and going over to Trinidad, meeting my Chinese family and having such a welcome.
Joan's husband sadly passed away 4 years after returning to Sidmouth. October 1st, 2013. Autumn has arrived.
It's quite an experience because I'm not used to being the centre of attention. And then you suddenly realise that you're rather unique because you've got as far as 100. So it's really been a very special time altogether. Oh, the card from the Queen, yes, that was a great joy. I did write back to her to thank her. I don't think she'll get it personally. I think probably it'll go through the office. It's a lovely idea, you know. I think it just makes Britain sound almost like a family, doesn't it? With the Queen at the head of it.
A summer breeze that brings a glow, even when the autumn's slow. A winter story that brings us death, but spring arrives to give new breath.